When you bear witness, what you're doing is you're opening your heart and allowing the pain in the collective to spark the pain inside of you.
Hello, I am thrilled to say that once again we have intuitive guide Christina Brinkley with us today. And before I give her the official welcome, as a reminder, she does Soul's Journey. If you have not listened to any of her episodes, I encourage you to, starting with the first one where she explains how she discovered these abilities and a bit about her story because it's fascinating. If you want to learn more about her, go to souljourneywithchristina.com. Feels like given everything that is going on in the world, it's really important that we take a look at healing and spirituality. And before we get started, Christina and I, particularly Christina, but if you listen to my latest Pause for Reflection, you know this is very heavy on my heart as well, with the horror of what is taking place globally. Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, particularly in the Gaza Strip. We want to be so sensitive to human suffering. Everything that is coming through takes a different perspective, meaning a larger perspective, but as human beings, just know that we are sending love and light and care for people who are moving through trauma. So welcome, Christina. It's so wonderful to see you as always.
Thank you for having me. I think that, this time is so important for all of us. And I do feel that all of us here, are not here by mistake. We all have a purpose and a place. And while this time in the collective is very intense, there are actionable things that we should be doing. And there are patterns of the collective that are coming up to heal at this time. And old ways of doing things are coming back to the surface. So I feel really called to share my guide's kind of vision of how we should manage this. And this is a timeless type of response because we all know that we hit pockets of big collective moments where we're all glued to the television, glued to the news. Everyone is getting activated, lit up by what's happening. And we cycle through these things collectively. And unfortunately, some people are participating directly, but a lot of us are still participating, even far away, even if we have no direct connection. We are all responsible and we are all affected by it. And so I think the messages that are coming through for me now, and they have been coming through since my guides have been speaking to me. They've been saying the same thing. They've been, I think, preparing me for this type of work. The work I do is individual work, but it's always for the greater good of the collective. That is my goal. My goal is always for the greater good. All of my sessions, even if they're working individually with clients, they are meant to change the trajectory of our planet. Like that is what I'm bringing into the experience. So I think first and foremost, I want to really remind everyone that the most important thing that everyone should be doing right now on a daily basis is clearing their field. And I know a lot of people have maybe healthy meditation practices, but I am not talking about a meditation practice. I'm clearing your field is like creating a energetic hygiene. So let's say that you have a house cleaner come and clean your house once a week, but then you never touched after they left, you never touched a dish, you threw your trash on the floor, you didn't clean up anything for the entire week. So maybe for the first couple of days it would still be like clean and nice, but by the time it was time for um the cleaner to come again, it would be gross and filthy and disgust smelly and like chaos and clutter. That's what happens to your field. That's what happens to our fields when we go out into the world. You're going to the grocery store, you're going to pick up at school, or whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to work. You're just absorbing the energies of the collective, right? And if you're not releasing them at the end of the night or resetting in the morning before you go out, you are contributing to the chaos on the planet. And so we are all, the moment you become aware of that, you're now responsible. The moment it comes to your awareness, you are now accountable for clearing your field. Just the same as if like someone lived in the woods and like was raised by like wolves, and then they came to, and then they learned how to like wash their body and clean, wash, brush their teeth, and they would now that they know, this is how you keep your body healthy, right? This is how you keep your energy body healthy. I think a lot of people confuse that with a meditation practice, sitting in stillness. It's really important and it's really beautiful, but that's not the same thing. Clearing your field is actively releasing energies and calling your energy back in. And so I advise anyone who doesn't have a good practice on that there's plenty of resources. And if for some reason you're like super lost and you're like, oh, I want to participate in this, I want to clear my field, but I don't know where to start, come to me. Reach out to me. I will send you a free clearing that you can listen to every day and you can make it yours. And everyone should be doing it. This is a baseline of what. There's plenty of people that will never do it, and that's just not part of what they're doing. But if you're at the place where you're hearing this, it's for you. You're meant to be doing this. This is a call to action. The more people that are clearing their field on a daily basis, it's bringing them back into alignment. Not only will it benefit your life, which it truly will. You'll start to notice that your life is shifting and changing. You'll start to feel more yourself. You'll have clear decisions, clarity, stronger intuition. Your relationships will get better. Life will get easier. Your reactions to things will start to get softer and calmer. That's just what happens when you clear your field on a daily basis. But what happens in the planet is that when you're going out into the world and you're not lit up with all this chaos and your field is clear and it's your own authentic energy, what you're doing is you're giving others permission. So what happens is, imagine two people at a grocery store and they're crossing paths. Your energy field and their energy field communicate. And that their field is looking at your field and like, oh, like kind of like, I want what she's having. Like, I want a piece of that. That's great. And you're giving, this is the ripple effect. This is how you bring light to the planet. This is a small way to do it. This is the baseline to do it. It is so important. I have clients that fully believe in this, come to me, want me to work their fields, and they don't have a daily practice. And of course, they come to me on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, and I'm clearing their field, and I'm doing deep work on them, but they're not keeping it up. So if they're not doing their work, they're not going to see the results that they really want. They're going to be relying on me to like keep themselves together when they really can do it themselves,
Yeah, this is really landing with me, and this is not something that I'm not familiar with. I am familiar with that. I'm wondering, you said people can come to you. Is that something you can share with us? A link to a clearing of the field video or audio that you provide that perhaps that we
Sure.
can
Yeah. Yeah, I can do
share
that. Yes.
with
Yes.
folks?
I
Okay,
mean, I
thank
don't
you.
have
Thank
like
you.
a fancy one done right now. I just have one I send
Doesn't
to people,
matter.
but yes, I can absolutely
Yeah.
do that. Um
Thank you. Thank you. Fancy's not important. It's
yeah,
all
just
about
yeah,
just having some tools because I hear that it's one thing. Not everyone can afford a personal
right.
trainer. But if you're seeing a personal trainer once a month or bi-weekly, that's not going to get you in shape, but it's an everyday practice. How long does it take to sit in intention and move through a process of clearing your
Oh, you
field?
could do it in 2 minutes, or you can do it in, I think like if you really dug deep, it could take like 15, but even that is like so quick.
I
But yes, you can do
know.
it very quickly. This is different than meditation. It's not, you're not sitting in meditation,
Mm-hmm.
you're actively moving or allowing energies to move off your body and to into calling your energies back in and grounding your field. And there's specific tools that are used to do that. And I use visuals to help make that to kind of um, make it stronger. But you can do it.
Yeah.
There's different ways you can do it, and I can explain that in the recording that I'll provide for
Yeah.
anyone that wants it.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate that. I love how, as you're
I,
saying that, the
I,
sun is coming right behind you. It's
I
actually
know.
gorgeous. We had another guest on. First of all, I just want to say before we got started, you're like, I'm not sure what's exactly going to come through. And you're being so incredibly eloquent and powerful. So thank you to you and to your guides. I really, really appreciate what you're saying and how you're saying it. We had another guest. She's part of what's called the Sage Method. Her name is Isabeau, and right now her last name is escaping me. But she talked a lot about clearing, and one of the things that stayed with me, she has an acronym for it, and again, right now I can't remember it. But when I am feeling overly activated, I imagine myself standing at this kind of like a cliff above the ocean, and I imagine just the wind moving through me and taking away all those like dark and clumpy energies that are just no longer serving
Yeah,
me.
beautiful.
Is
Yes,
that kind of like what you're
yes,
talking
yes,
about?
very yes. And you can using those type of tools. That's those are really beautiful ways, and you can do different things. I mean, I think that's a really beautiful way of doing it. Uh, some people would like to use fires. Imagine like little bonfires pulling the energies out. There's different ways. Sorry, I'm just trying to.
Sure.
The sun ray wants to chase me. I'm trying to move it. So, um, yeah, there are many ways to do it, and I think everyone should kind of make it their own. But I think it's
Exactly.
helpful to kind of hear how to do it first, and then you can kind of get an idea.
Yes.
And then what I find is, so this should be done every day. Now,
Mm-hmm.
in times of intensity, um, either you're in your personal life, you're going through a harder time, or the world is going through a harder time. It You want to amp it up. You might want to do it a few times a day. I clear my field through. I've been clearing my field throughout the day for like at least the past week, because it's so easy. You click on social media, and then you're immediately brought back in, and you're absorbing stuff. You're absorbing stuff from everywhere. Um, and then I realized like, oh, I'm so sorry.
I don't think you're going to win. It's the sun against you.
It's trying to find me. Um, so that's like it's really important to kind of amp it up right now. So if you do have a practice, make sure you're not forgetting your tools. I mean, a lot of times when things get big, we forget. We kind of like we might have a nervous system response and we freeze, but this is a time
Yes.
to use your tools. And again,
Yes.
meditation is super helpful, but this is not meditation. I'm talking about clearing your field. This is an active participation
Yeah.
in your own evolution and the evolution of the planet. Now, now speaking about collective um, moments of horror, tragedy, um, when these things happen, and they will continue to happen, because that's part of our human experience. So most of us would
All
like
right.
to be awakened by these, um, by the, something beautiful, that seeing an act of kindness or whatever, all these things. But that's not actually how most people are awakened. Most people, um, pain is a really powerful portal into healing. And a lot of
Mm,
us choose pain, and sometimes the collective
yeah.
chooses pain. And what we're experiencing right now is a large pain portal that we are being asked to walk through. There is medicine on the other end. And the people that are the souls that are participating directly in this collective pain are like the first line of defense. They're like, we're all these spiritual warriors being called to action, and they're the first line of defense. And it's so heartbreaking, but their souls chose this as, to participate in part of our awakening. And not just the bright lights that have been lost, but even the darkness is choosing this as part. Their souls chose to be part of this awakening. Um, and what the rest of us who are, there are layers of how you experience this. And so I'm going to speak to the people who are not directly, because if you're directly affected by this, then you process it the way you process any grief and pain. But people who are indirect or not directly, um, affected by in a collective tragedy, oftentimes we think that oftentimes what happens is that people do not grieve as if they're directly affected. We all are directly affected, but you may not think you're directly affected. So, what I notice that happens during these times on the planet is that what our goal is, what we're being called to, we're being called to action, right? Spiritual warriors being called to action. This is our time. What is our action? Our action is to bear witness to the pain, because the pain is the portal into the medicine.
Mm,
We have to bear
mm.
witness. We don't take it on. We're not pulling the pain into us. Or,
That's the
I
hard
know
part.
it is a hard part, but
That's why the
that's why you have
clearing's
to
so
clear.
important.
I think because
Yes, yes.
even the greatest of healers are going to soak in some collective pain. It's it's
Yeah,
it's a lot. So that's why you have to clear your field. So you have to know the tools,
you're right.
but you have to bear witness without taking it on. And when you bear witness, what you're doing is you're opening your heart and allowing the pain in the collective to spark the pain inside of you. Now, we all hold pain, trauma, grief, sadness, fear. We all hold it. Maybe it's on a small scale, um, like the tiniest scale compared to what's happening. But every single ounce that we can metabolize within ourselves frees and sets free the collective just a little bit. We're all holding pieces of the grief. So if we're,
That's
or the
right.
anger or the rage or the hurt. So if we're metabolizing it in ourselves, it's lightening the load of the planet.
Mm,
And so we're being asked to not do the collective grief work. You're not jumping in and processing the pain of those that have died or been hurt or traumatized or all the things that have happened, right? You're being asked to do your own work. You're letting it open
mm.
you up and work through what's happening in you. And so the more space that we create through these pain portals, the more space that we have to hold for those that are not able to do this work right now.
Yes.
And
I get that.
so it is our job that is our call to action. Our call to action is to bear witness, to not look away, to bear witness, to feel the pain. And here's the thing is that even if you have lived a very safe and happy life in this lifetime, and there's not a lot of trauma to maybe tap into when you're doing the bear witness, your soul has experienced many lifetimes. Especially if you're listening to this, you're probably been around for a while. Your soul has probably been to war before. Your soul has experienced war on some level before, or some tragedy or whatever, right? So your soul is being lit up right now. Your soul is needing to grieve and to
chills.
and your soul needs to process this. So even if it doesn't quite make sense to you, you don't have to connect it to something very specific in your lifetime. If you're allowing yourself to open up and you're grieving, you can trust that it needed to leave you, that you were carrying the weight of something from maybe lifetimes. That is what we're being asked to do. Now, what often happens, and this is a pattern that plays again and again, Americans are very unique to this, but we're not unique to this. There are plenty other places that experience some sort of numbness to emotions, but Americans tend to distract themselves from pain. That's why it's a unique, when you turn on the TV in America as opposed to anywhere else, you just see ads about medicine, of all the medicine.
Crazy,
just
right?
Just putting,
yes. The pharmaceuticals
yes.
to numb out.
We have a fix it, numb it, distract us. Like that's the world that we live in. And
that's the culture.
And
that's the culture.
So what we're being asked is to, one, you have to stop yourself when you find yourself trying to distract or numb or fix it really quick. Anything you're trying to fix in a hurry, that's the moment you need to pause and stop and be willing to sit in the pain. One of the things that clients kept saying to me is that this is just so painful, and it felt like they wanted me, so they were coming to me to help, to like do healings, and I would check in with their field, and their field was beautiful. Their field was really clear. And I was like, your field looks great. And I was like, and then I realized, oh, they're asking me to take the pain away. And this is painful.
Doesn't work that way.
This is
doesn't
painful.
Work that way.
And
you have to feel it.
It's okay for it to be painful.
Yeah.
It's okay that there is some, it doesn't mean it's going to last forever, but while it's here, we have to bear witness to it. And it's okay that it's painful. And
well, what I love with the collective is that it is our responsibility, that it's not just the people who are on the front lines. But even if there are many degrees of separation, we all made the choice to be here at this time, and there needs to be a willingness to feel it and the tools, like you said, to then cleanse it so that you're not, I think people fear being emotionally annihilated.
And that's why we have to have the tools to release it, because no one is asking you to hold the pain of the world. That's one, it doesn't help anyone. If you take other people's emotions or burdens and you pull them into yourself, that's an old way that's like an old healing method that healers used to do, and then it doesn't work, because what happens is it's impossible for you to process someone else's emotions. We can only process our own emotions. So we have to give back everyone else's and then allow but we have a lot. We think we might not have a lot, but we have a lot. Our soul's been through a lot. We have a lot to work with. So you don't have to take anyone else's on. You can just bear witness and process. Now what happens is that there are people who are unwilling or unable or incapable, because the moment they see something tragic in the collective and they tap into that pain, they have not done their work. It is too painful for them. So they do one of a few things. There are people who just turn off, I can't look at this, and they don't want to look. They don't want to see it. They don't want to look at it. And I understand those people. It is a lot. And I'm not judging anyone, but this is a thing that is happening, is that if you're turning away, it means you have not done enough of your work. It means that the pain is too much, that it's tapping into your pain. Not that that pain is too much, is that you have not done the work to create space in your field, which should be a big, like, red flag. Like, you should be like, oh, I need to be doing my work. I need to be grieving more. There's not enough space for me to hold, um for me to bear witness to humanity right now, what's happening in the on the planet. Um and then this another thing that happens is there's the deniers. Those are the most locked in pain. The people who
Yeah.
can't even conceive of it, so they deny it because it's too painful for them to like, their conscious mind can't. The people who look away know that something's happening, and they're like, it's too much. The people who
Yeah.
deny it, their conscious mind shuts down. Like, they can't. There are
Mm,
people that, there, we see examples of this all the time, which is like the Sandy Hook deniers, those people that don't
exactly.
even believe because they can't conceive of it. But that means they are not, they have a lot of work to do. They really need to look at their souls, because their souls are pleading with them to, like, wake up and do the
But it
work.
feels like those folks are also the folks who are least likely to look at themselves because of all those mechanisms
Right.
in place, the lack of awareness. Can we pause here for just a second? I have curiosity with these folks because when I think about us collectively, that to me, they represent one of our greatest
Yeah.
vulnerabilities. Both that they are unconsciously saying on a human level, I can't do this, therefore it doesn't exist, while their souls are pleading with them. And also that they are perpetrating
Yeah.
harm, like the Sandy Hook deniers. So, how do we, as people who are more conscious, how do we stay in relationship to them and
What they are
ourselves?
doing is very harmful. And also, what we only have control over what we do. So what we can do
Okay.
is that the more that we do our work, the people that are capable, because I know a lot of people that are capable and they still shut down. So
Yeah.
if you are capable and you are hearing this message, it means that you are being called to action. You are responsible for doing your work, for clearing your field, for touching into your grief and pain, and it's not about just being in your shadow all the time, because
Yeah,
right.
mired in
The
darkness.
only
Yeah,
way to truly feel joy is to truly feel sadness. There's no
exactly.
anything that you think. If you think you're living a love and light, I just good high vibes. If you think you're living that, you're not. You're really, you're you're in a bubble of you're missing something even more beautiful, because the medicine that
Mm.
happens when you're broken open in your own grief, the this the joy that happens on the other end is so juicy and yummy, and you can only attain it if you're willing to walk through the fire, right? And
Yes,
we're
yes.
all being asked to, and that is part of our evolution. If you want to be part of the evolution of the planet, if you want to be part of the betterment of the planet, then you have to actively participate. And that means you're being called to action. And if you want if you're like, okay, maybe I'll catch it on the next collective, uh, how about this? It'll bring you the better job. It'll bring you the soulmate you're looking for. It has all those
You're
other
like, we got to incentivize
it
people.
has all those other yummy things that people are looking for. And you're gonna
Yeah,
get all the
connections,
other yummy
connections.
stuff. Your relationships are gonna get
Yeah,
better. Everything, all that other stuff is gonna start. Yes.
upgrade.
But on top of that, you're going to participate in our evolution. And we need everyone because there are pockets and groups of people that are unwilling or incapable because they're locked in some pain that they can't touch into. And here's what I know: the more we are willing to do our work, the more it will gently start to unwind them. And then so
Fascinating.
we're doing their work. We're doing some of the work for
Yeah,
them to take, because the more that we free ourselves, we free everyone. And so
got it.
so we are helping them lighten the load. We are helping in all aspects. There is another important group that arises in tragedy, and it's the people that the debaters. The debaters is another big form of distraction. When you are jumping into the mix and trying to debate, you're immediately saying that there is a right and a wrong when there is when the simplest thing has happened. Someone has Life has been lost. And and even in an inhumane way, right? And and now there's people that are debating, well, did they deserve it? Or why did this happen? Or then there's a debate that happens. And that is also a distraction. And even the well meaning that are like trying to convince people,
Yes.
like even the people that are trying to convince people of, no, don't you see the humanity? Like we need to think about all the lives that are lost. Even those people are still just that all of their energy is going into endless debate.
So in the engagement, can I paraphrase what you're saying? Because this one feels, it's all really important. This one feels like a little thorny because it brings up like ideas around social
Right.
justice,
Mm-hmm.
and people can get caught in the realm of intellectually parsing through it and trying to determine where there's righteousness, right? Because I was actually, after I drove my kiddo to school, I was coming home, and I don't want to get political here, but I mean just biblically speaking, when you're talking about Israel's and the Jews and Abraham, and then of course, Palestine, and it's because they're a two-state solution, like it's so complicated, and there have been centuries of quote unquote debate. There was a young woman who said, we just have to remember we all believe this is about humanity. And that really resonated with me. But what I'm also hearing you saying, if she is staying locked in trying to fight people who are debating, she's participating in the debate and not in being more focused on the
Right.
portal of pain, recognizing that she signed up for that, leaving room for feeling the pain and processing it as her responsibility as we all
Yes.
move through this.
So what I think what she said is totally fine. I don't think that's part of a debate.
Not what she said,
The
it's the
participation.
participation of getting
So
hooked.
here's what I will say. There's a difference between being an activist, a social justice activist, yes,
Warrior,
it
yeah.
and participating in an online back and forth battle. There are
Mm,
people who are well informed and have been following certain um social justice issues for a long time. And if you're
mm-hmm,
interested, if something sparks your interest, then you fall in line and follow the people who have done the work, and then you build upon that work. But you can jump in at the 11th hour with all opinions that you're finding from random
Got it.
sources that you don't know where it's coming from, and then you're debating in it. What you're doing is distraction. If you are not participating
Got it.
in
Got it.
your
Got it.
own emotional, because there's people, I promise you, the people that are part of this social justice movement and they are activists, I promise you they are doing their work. Maybe not all of them, but I know a lot of them have been grieving this experience. They've been
Yes.
processing
Yes.
it. This is not the time for the battle for them. This is an opportunity to bring more awareness to maybe longer, deeper issues, but that is
Exactly.
not what that's different than getting on in an online debate with someone you went to high school with on like or whatever. Like,
Yeah. I love that distinction. I love that distinction. That's why I wanted to pause us because I think it can be just people could
yeah,
misunderstand that. Like social justice from a place of being in your
yes,
integrity, processing, and really working to raise consciousness and promote
yeah.
positive change is critical. It's that online debating where it's a
And
distraction.
there's plenty of things that we can do simultaneously um with doing the work, with doing your own I'm not saying that the only thing you should be doing right now is bear witnessing and like grieving. You can still donate to causes, you can still educate yourself, you can still um you know the whatever it is, like whatever it is that bringing kindness to the world, helping your neighbor, whatever it is that sparks you in this moment that makes you want to add, there's plenty of things that we can do, actionably, that can
Right.
bring about change and those opportunities. But I'm talking about checking where your energy is going. If your energy is going into looking away, I can't look at
I
this.
I love
If your
that.
energy is going into this didn't happen, there's no way. I read this conspiracy that this, and then people get attached to that because it gives them the um they get to like they get to bypass it. They don't have to believe it.
Yeah.
Or if you're
Yeah.
getting worked up, and I there's been many times where I'll see someone post something, misinformation, something that is not correct, and I find myself, and I'm like, and I
We're
want to jump
human.
in, and I want to be like, I want to school
Yes.
them or tell them like this is incorrect information, and then I have to stop myself, and I'm like, what is the pain that I'm feeling right now that makes me feel like I need to jump into this? What is it I'm
Into the
avoiding?
fray.
And there's always something I'm avoiding in those moments. There's when I'm searching and I'm seeing
Interesting.
it and I'm getting caught up in the debate, it's because I'm not willing to sit with something. And you can't, in times like this, you can't just sit in it. You have to pull out. You have to spend time with your family. You have to do something fun and laugh and go into nature. These are the times where you just really get simple, but then you go back in. And then when you're ready, you go back in, you bear witness, you start to release more. And then you take a break, and then you go back to your life, and that's how we move through these. And um there's some bigger themes that have been coming up in my healings this week that I think are connected to the collective. I would say one of the biggest example themes that I saw coming up with my clients, and I think it pertains to a bigger healing in the collective, is that there is a tendency for a lot of people. This is not about a certain group of people. This is like a lot of people have this tendency, and I think the goal is to move out of it. But one of the things that I was shown is that we hold pain. Oftentimes, we hold on to pain because we think that if we heal it and release it, that we'll forget, and then it could happen again. And so we hold it.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the, and this is such a silly example, but this is an example. My guides don't like it when I call their example silly. but they're like, we make it simple because of how you think. They're like, it's not
Mm-hmm.
us, it's you. But
It's not us, it's you. That's
but
so
okay,
good.
um so the example that they gave me is let's say you're riding a bike and you're doing like a trick on it where you fall and you break your leg. And you have to take time, you heal it, it gets better, and then you get back on the bike and you ride again, right? That's the goal. But what they're showing me is that what people do, the how this works in our like field is that it would be like if we rode a bike, did a trick, fell off, broke our leg, and then we're so terrified that we would do this, make the same mistake again, that we didn't allow our leg to heal, that we just walked with a crutch and then we just kind of hobbled along, never getting back on the bike again. And what they were showing me is the difference is that when you heal, when you get back on the bike, you're not like, you didn't forget you broke your leg. But not only did you not forget you broke your leg is healed, you didn't forget about it, but now you have more information. You're like, okay, I can't do it this way anymore, so I'm going to come up with a new path forward. I'm going to do a new way. So not only is healing it allowing you to get back on the bike, that's the bare minimum. Now you're gonna not only are you getting it back on the bike, but you have more information because you're getting back on the bike. You have more tools to move forward, to keep you safe, to come up with a new way of doing things. Whereas,
You're wiser and even more
yes.
resourced than you were
And
before.
so you needed that broken leg to come up with a new path or whatever. Maybe that was part of your journey. But by if you kept the pain of it, if you kept the pain of it and it kept you from getting back on the bike, you would just so yeah, you probably wouldn't you wouldn't get back on the bike. You wouldn't,
Your
yeah,
risk
your
is
risk is
lower.
lower. You're
Your
not going to
risk is
fall off the
lower.
bike again because you're not going to even get on it.
Mm-hmm.
You're very aware of it. You're
Yep.
carrying the pain and you're always referring back to it and it's right there and you are like that that is but it's such a limited way of experiencing this life. And what I'm being shown is that that is a lot of what's coming up. That's why these deep historical painful collective cyclical wars that are coming up are often rooted in a lot of like, well, this happened before, this happened before, and and there there's a lot of like clashing of not willing to create a new path forward because so many people are holding on to that pain, which I get it because they think that if you heal it and you truly let it go, they'll forget, but that's not the case. No one's going to forget.
That's not the case. That's not the lesson. That is so profound. Whether it's in my own life personally, I'm thinking of times, whether it's relationships or illness or, my God, I know I've done that. But yeah, historically and
I mean,
collectively,
this is definitely
that is
this
profound.
is an individual thing that we can break up. If we bring it to our awareness and we can start to break it up and we can start to realize that like if just the notion of being like, hey, what am I holding on to that I think that I think is if I hold on to it, it will never happen again. What am I willing to let go of so that I can heal? Because I say this to people all the time is that oftentimes the people who do start to forget are often because they haven't created the space for the healing. When you heal,
Mm,
your memory and your experience of it is from such a brighter place from that you can actually see it in such a different way that it doesn't
yeah.
that the it's what I see is that people want to get over that hump of the fear of forgetting is so important, but once you're over it, you realize that you have so much more information. And so the old way of
Yeah.
stopping yourself, we're being called to let that go. And we're being called to let that go in all of us individually. And as we do it individually, it will release the chokehold it has on these historical conflicts that keep kind of reigniting over and over and over again.
Recurring over and over and over again. It's like capacity building. The healing builds the capacity to forge a new path forward. Oh my gosh. That's really powerful. That's really, really powerful. So as always, our time goes by so quickly. To recap, and I haven't been taking notes, so help me out here, because this was chock full of wisdom and calls to action and bringing awareness to there is agency in this. So it's clearing our field, and you will be sharing. Either they can go to your website,
and reach out to me,
souljourneywithchristina.com, reach out to Christina,
and then I'll send you a link.
Wonderful. I really appreciate that. The more that, I mean, for me as just the host of this little show, the more I can feel like I'm putting positive out there in the face of so many people who are moving through this harrowing experience. But so clearing is really important. It's important to understand that the pain is the portal, and that we signed up for this, and that we have to give space to feeling it, but then continue to clear. Those 3 different types of people, right? So the 2 that are standing there with me are those who get caught in the debate,
being aware of where your energy
those
is
who are
going.
the deniers, being aware of what your energy is avoiding, as well as what you're trying to avoid, and then recognizing that holding on to our pain, we are using it as like a safeguard, but it really only cripples and hobbles us. And if we allow ourselves to heal, it gives capacity and space for finding new routes. And we're doing this not only individually, but collectively.
Beautiful.
God, that's good. God, that's good. Okay. Not that that is not enough, but as we go into transitioning to end this episode, Christina, is there anything else that you or your guides have not given voice to that feels important to share?
I think that a good reminder when the world feels heavy and dense is that what we're feeling is all the things coming to the surface to be released. And I think that's a really important reminder, because we can really get in our head and feel burdened by it, but knowing that it feels the strongest as it's leaving is a really important. I know it helps me a lot to remember that it always feels so strong as it's leaving, and then once it's gone on the other end, it's like, and that's what we're doing right now. We're processing a wave of release.
That's so important. Emotional processing requires courage. It requires courage, and the reminder that it might feel most acute right before it's about to release.
Yes.
Okay. Beautiful. Sometimes I'm just without words. This is exactly, for me, what the doctor ordered. Needing the insight, needing a path forward, needing tools, needing to feel like I'm not just sitting idly by, and that bearing witness is part of what's being asked for, but how to bear witness and why it matters individually and collectively, and that this is about awakening, and we can participate in that in a way that is meaningful, even in our solitary lives, because we're all connected. Thank you so much.
How I Made It Through is produced and distributed by EIQ Media, LLC. Elevate your emotional IQ with podcasts and content focused on overcoming adversity, leadership, mental health, entrepreneurship, spiritually transformative experiences, and more.